Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the first ever Diz Quiz Doc. I'm your host, Tommy T, and thanks so much for checking out this video. It's something a little different from the Diz Quiz game show that I've been doing. If you don't know what that is, check out the other videos on this channel. It's a Disney game show where two Disney fans go against each other in a battle of Disney trivia. The Diz Quiz game show is going great, but I wanted to do a little something different, probably once a month or so, and that is this series, Diz Quiz Docs. Each episode will take a deep dive on one specific thing, going into the history, the details, or whatever aspect I want to talk about. It'll be a fun way to go really in depth into something Disney and really dig into the details. Before we get into the fun, just want to give a plug to subscribe and follow us on social media. I know you hear it all the time, but it really does help, and I appreciate you joining the Diz Quiz community, being a part of all the Disney fun we're doing here. Every day on social media, I post a fun Disney video with a trivia question or a fun fact or just something cool and Disney related. And then here on YouTube, we have the Diz Quiz game show and now this Disney Doc series. And who knows what else I'll be coming up with later on. So join us, be a part of the community. We'd love to have you. So in the spirit of the holiday season, I'm kicking off the Diz Quiz Doc series with the history of the Osborne family spectacle of dancing lights. This year, as part of the holiday fun at Disney's Hollywood Studios, Disney premiered the Sunset Season's Greetings, a show that takes over Sunset Boulevard with lights, screens, and that brilliant projection mapping technology. It's a welcome addition to the Christmas offerings at Walt Disney World, but one can't help but miss the charm, history, and splendor that was brought to the studios each year by the Osborne family spectacle of dancing lights. So let's travel back to 1968 in Little Rock, Arkansas. Jennings Osborne and his wife Mitzi opened a medical testing facility that became extremely successful. They became quite wealthy and moved to an estate near Little Rock, Arkansas, and took up philanthropy. Jennings became a well-known personality around Arkansas, throwing events big and small, ranging up to their annual full-scale fireworks display. In 1986, Jennings' only daughter Breezy asked if he could decorate their house for Christmas. This caring father saw a great way to bond with his daughter, and that year they strung up 1,000 lights on their home. Year after year, the tradition continued, and more lights went up. Visitors started coming by to view the displays, and Jennings, himself resembling Santa Claus, would greet guests and hand out these gigantic candy canes. By 1993, the decorations contained over 3 million lights. The Osbornes purchased houses on each side of them and decorated those with lights as well. That year, the display was up for 35 days from sunset to midnight and attracted thousands of visitors. This thing reached a critical mass. The power company had to give him his own transformer, and they reported that the Osbornes consumed as much energy in the month of December as an average Little Rock home did in an entire year. According to the Washington Post, pilots reported seeing the lights 80 miles away. As you can imagine, neighbors were not thrilled with the situation. They claimed that the masses of people coming to see the decorations were disrupting the neighborhood, causing major traffic jams, and even damaging property. Jennings had to hire his own personal security team just to keep the neighbors at bay. But even that wasn't enough. 6 neighbors filed a lawsuit, which Jennings eventually lost. He appealed the decision to both the Arkansas and U.S. Supreme Courts, but neither would hear his case. The Osbornes would have to admit defeat and no longer display their lights. Now, let's flip over to the Disney side of the story, where an article from Jim Hill gave me some great insight on how this all went down. So picture this, it's 1995 and Disney-MGM Studios, now in its 6th year, is still looking for its signature Christmas event. A Disney executive sees a news story on TV about a man in Arkansas who was just ordered to take down his massive Christmas decorations. I think you see where this is going. Before long, Disney contacts Osborne to propose bringing the lights to Walt Disney World and installing them on Residential Street in Disney-MGM Studios. For those of you who may not remember, the Backlot Tour once featured a row of homes to be used for filming called Residential Street. Jennings doesn't understand at first. He's thinking they want to put the lights in some residential road in Florida, but once he realized that this was the Disney company and they wanted to put the lights in Disney World, he was on board right away. Not long after, 4 18-wheelers rolled up at the Osborne home in Little Rock and loaded up the millions of strands of lights. Something to keep in mind is that these were not specially designed lights. These are literally store-bought lights that you or I would put up on our own home. so the amount of work that went into organizing and storing these things was extensive. According to Jim Hill's article, the trucks didn't arrive in Walt Disney World until November 4th of 1995, at which point 3 teams of technicians had to work 24/7 to make sense of all these lights and get them installed. A few weeks later, on the evening of November 24th, 1995, the Osborne family spectacle of dancing lights officially debuted at the Disney-MGM studios. The response from crowds was overwhelmingly positive, and it became an immediate staple. The studios had its signature Christmas event at last. Continuing in Jennings' tradition, Disney added more lights each year until it grew to over 5 million lights. And in Disney tradition, the crew added hidden Mickeys to the displays. But the more unique hidden secret was the purple cat that was placed in a different spot each year for guests to find. The story goes that it was a Halloween decoration that fell into a Christmas box, and the Disney crew decided to embrace it. The Osborne family returned to Walt Disney World each year to revisit their creation, always receiving the royal treatment from Disney. In 2004, Residential Street was torn down to make room for Lights Motors action, and the lights made their way to the big city of New York Street, later known as Streets of America. In 2011, Jennings Osborne passed away, but his legacy would live on through his lights, at least until 2015, when Disney announced it would be the last year for the Osborne lights, as Streets of America was taken down in favor of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Now, I only had the opportunity to see the Osborne lights in action the last 2 years they were up, but let me tell you, it is one of the more magical experiences ever offered by Disney. You walk down the street and it was the feeling of being inside of a Christmas tree. Every inch of your view was just filled with Christmas lights. The term dancing lights is very apropos because the lights were synchronized to music in this unbelievable fashion, because it was this far-ranging display, and from beginning to end, they would dance a long time with the music. As far as music tracks, you would hear traditional Christmas songs alongside stuff like Trans-Siberian Orchestra or Feliz Navidad or Nightmare Before Christmas music. There was really a wide range of really fun songs that went along with these lights. I like to stand in the middle of the street and just do a 360 to see the massive intricacies that were present for these lights. It was really an overwhelming experience. Then you start to walk down the side paths and you see the artificial snow falling from the sky, and you're looking at these smaller displays and you're finding hidden Mickeys and the cat, and really it's just such a unique experience by Disney standards. When you think about how complicated of a production it was to put this thing together, it's understandable that Disney decided to pull it down without having a new home for the Osborne lights. It's not as though you can just plug it in somewhere else without adding a lot of new infrastructure. I mean, just the power outlets alone, I can't even imagine. However, according to Jim Hill on his Disney Dish podcast, there were discussions about moving the lights to Disney Springs. Now, Disney Springs is a different animal because most of those spaces are leased out to third-party retailers and restaurants. Therefore, there's a lot more hurdles to get over in order to put the lights up there. Supposedly, the problem was that some of these third-party companies did not want the lights covering up their signage above their stores. Now, I get where they're coming from, but I think it's a little ridiculous. Having the Osborne lights in Disney Springs would bring in so much more traffic that I would think it's a worthwhile trade-off. But again, I get it. Another consideration was that Disney Springs was under major construction when they shut the lights down at the studios, so that was probably a big factor there. So now that that construction is wrapping up, maybe we do see them go into Disney Springs next year. And of course, Hollywood Studios has a couple more years left of their overhaul, and once that park is finished and rebranded, who knows, maybe they'll return to the studios one day. I do truly believe that we haven't seen the last of the Osborne family spectacle of dancing lights, and that they're sitting in a warehouse somewhere, perfectly organized, just waiting to dazzle us once again. And I, for one, will be thrilled when Jennings Osborne's creation makes its glorious return to Walt Disney World. So, that does it for the first ever Diz Quiz Doc. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know what you think of this format. Leave a comment. It really can help me shape future videos, or if you have an idea for something you'd like to get the history of through this format, let me know, because I'm definitely open to suggestions. I think your feedback's going to especially drive this show on what kind of content we see here. There's any number of directions. I've got lots of ideas, but please let me know what you think. And like I said, subscribe, comment, share, all those good things that you hear all the time in every YouTube video you watch. It really helps. It really means a lot. Thank you so much for your support. I've been your host, Tommy T. Thanks so much for watching. A Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you and your loved ones. And until next time, we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.